The popularity of Wallstreetbets has gone through the roof in recent months. What started out as a fringe subreddit has become one of the most popular financial sites in the world. Although there are a lot more busts than booms, even hedge funds are starting to take notice of what's going on the subreddit. And if it's good enough for them, surely it's good enough for us. Before we go any further, I want to make it clear that in my opinion, just going off of Wallstreetbets alone is a terrible idea, and really you should just use it to focus your further reading. The same sort of premise applies to the code that we're talking about here. Use it as a foundation, but make sure you audit it yourself and don't rely on it 100%. Now, if we wanted to get an understanding of what's hot on the Wallstreetbets subreddit, we could go through the posts manually and try and glean some information, find the tickers, get the sentiment of the posts and the comments. But this clearly isn't a very efficient way of doing it, so really what we want to do is automate it. And thanks to a couple of open source Python libraries and a bit of basic code, we're going to be able to do that. Fortunately, there are two ways we can do this. The first is focused around scraping, and we'd have to use the old Reddit site for that. But the downside to this approach is that it's quite complicated and it would be quite easy to miss comments. And another approach is to use the Reddit API, and although there is a bit of rate limiting, this is probably our best bet. Just a heads up, this video isn't a comprehensive coding tutorial, we're just going to go over the main elements of the code which can be found on GitHub. In short, how the code works is it grabs all of the most recent posts from the Wallstreetbets subreddit, then downloads all of the comments associated with those posts, extracts all of the tickers, so GME, Apple, from any comments and posts that are there, and then tries to get the sentiment using the NLTK library. And all of this is then bundled up into a CSV to try and give us a bit of a condensed meaning and understanding of what's being spoken about, and then we can direct our reading a bit further. Okay, so if we have a quick look over the code, we can see that there are 5 main areas. The first is grabbing posts from the Reddit API, and we do this using the /new endpoint in the getRecentPosts function. Once we have the post, we then need to parse them, and we do that using the parsePost function inside of the parsePost class. Essentially, this just extracts the elements we're interested in from the JSON returned from the API endpoint and discards the rest. The useful information is then returned. Next up, we handle comments. Again, comments are sourced using the Reddit API, this time using the comment articles endpoint. To make a call, all we have to do is provide the ID of a post we want the comments for. Unlike the post data, parsing the comments JSON is complicated. This is because comments can be made on comments, resulting in potentially very deeply nested JSON. To overcome this, we use a set of functions inside of the parseComments class, which ensures we get every reply that's available, no matter how many comments come before that. One thing to note, however, is that there is a cutoff to how many comments are sent and received from the comment articles endpoint. Once a certain limit is reached, further comments have to be requested using a different post endpoint. Because we're only interested in the overall sentiment of a set of comments, we're going to overlook these missing comments. Now that we've got all of the raw data we need, it's time to start extracting meaning. And there are 2 parts to this, the first being listing all of the tickers present. We achieve this through the tickers class, however, this is dependent on CSVs from the Nasdaq website, which provide information on tickers for all of the major US exchanges. Make sure you download all of the CSVs you want into the relevant directory before running the code. The tickers class begins by loading in all of the CSVs found in the tickers directory and creating a list containing the relevant information. Once this is completed, we can call the check for tickers function to identify all of the tickers present in the provided string. The second part of meaning extraction takes the form of sentiment analysis. The code used here is based heavily off of DateYari's post on the DigitalOcean community pages, and I'll post a link to that in the description. It's worth noting that the code here isn't optimised for use with Wallstreetbets or financial data in general. It was originally built to assess the sentiment of tweets and uses a tweet dataset, so don't rely on it. Essentially, when the user inputs a string to the NLTK model, a positive or negative result is returned. Whilst this may seem rudimentary, we can use it to determine if a discussion is positive or negative, guiding our further reading. All of the information we've sourced and created is then bundled up into a series of CSVs, one that contains all of the posts and an overview of the comments for that particular post, and a series of others containing the comments for each post in the post CSV. You can see in the posts CSV, the last 7 columns focus on the comments, namely showing the most common tickers in the comments for that post, and how many times they appear. There's also a summation of the sentiment for all of the comments to that post. Clearly there's a lot that can be done to improve this code, but hopefully it acts as a good starting place. Thanks for watching.